माधव कुंज बिहारी। राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। गोपीजना वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। गोपीजना वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। गोपीजना वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजन। 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 यमुना तीर वनचारी। यमुना तीर वनचारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। जय जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जना यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जना यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जना यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जना यमुनातीर वनचारी यमुनातीर वनचारी जय जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी 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 गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। जय विष्णुपद परमहंस प्रभुजगाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शतशी श्रीमद श्रील अभय चरणानंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी महाराज श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। गौ प्रेमानंदी। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवति उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी। कृष्णे स्वधामोपगते धनमज्ञानादिभिः सह कलौ नष्टदृशामेष पुराणार्को धुनोदितः। This is Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 4, entitled The Atrocities of King Kamsa. Text number 19, please repeat. Bhuvi Bhomani Bhutani Yatha Yanti apayanti cha na ayam atma tatha eteshu viparyeti yatha eva bhuh. Bhuvi bhaumani bhutani yatha yantyaphayanti cha nayamatma tathaiteshu viparyeti yathaiva bhuh. Bhuvi bhaumani bhutani yatha yantyaphayanti cha nayamatma tathaiteshu viparyeti tathaiva cha bhuh. Bhuvi bhaumani bhutani yatha yantyaphayanti cha nayamatma tathaiteshu viparyeti yathaiva bhuh. Bhuvi bhaumani bhutani yatha yantyaphayanti cha nayamatma tathaiteshu viparyeti yathaiva bhuh. Bhuvi bhaumani bhutani yatha yantyaphayanti cha nayamatma tathaiteshu viparyeti yathaiva bhuh. Bhuvi bhaumani bhutani yatha yantyaphayanti cha nayamatma tathaiteshu viparyeti yathaiva bhuh. Ladies. Bhuvi bhaumani bhutani yatha yantyaphayanti cha nayamatma tathaiteshu viparyeti yathaiva bhuh. Bhaumani bhutani yatha yantyaphayanti cha nayamatma tathaiteshu viparyeti yathaiva bhuh. Bhuvi, on the surface of the world. Bhaumani, all material products from earth, such as pots. Bhutani, which are produced. Yatha, as. Yanti, appear in form. Apayanti, disappear, broken or mixed with the earth. Ja, and. Na, not. I am Atma, the soul, or spiritual identity. Tatha, similarly. Eteshu, among all these products of material elements. Viparyeti is changed or broken. Yatha, as, certainly. Bhuh, the earth. Translation. By His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. In this world, we can see that pots, dolls, and other products of the earth appear, break, and then disappear, mixing with the earth. Similarly, the bodies of all conditioned living entities are annihilated, but the living entities, like the earth itself, are unchanging and never annihilated. Na hanyate hanyamane sharire. Please repeat. In this world, we can see that pots, dolls, and other products of the earth appear, break, and then disappear, mixing with the earth. Similarly, the bodies of all conditioned living entities are annihilated, but the living entities, like the earth itself, are unchanging and never annihilated. Nahanyate hanyamane sharire. Purport. Although Kamsa is described as a demon, he had good knowledge of the affairs of Atma Tattva, the truth of the self. 5,000 years ago, there were kings like Kamsa, who is described as an asura. But he was better than modern politicians and diplomats who have no knowledge about Atma Tattva. As stated in the Vedas, asango hyayam purushaha. The spirit soul has no connection with the changes of the material body. The body undergoes 6 changes: birth, growth, sustenance, byproducts, dwindling, and then annihilation. But the soul undergoes no such changes. Even after the annihilation of a particular bodily form, the original source of the bodily elements does not change. The living entity enjoys the material body, which appears and disappears. But the 5 elements, earth, water, fire, air, and ether, remain the same. The example given here is that pots and dolls are produced from the earth. And when broken or destroyed, they mingle with their original ingredients. In any case, the source of supply remains the same. As already discussed, the body is made according to the desires of the soul. The soul desires, and thus the body is formed. Krishna therefore says in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, text 61, Ishvara sarva bhutanam hriddeshe arjuna tishtati, pramayan sarva bhutani yantrarurhani mayaya. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities, who are seated as on a machine made of the material energy. Neither the supersoul, Paramatma, nor the individual soul changes its original spiritual identity. The Atma does not undergo birth, death, or changes like the body. Therefore, a Vedic aphorism says, Asango hi ayam purushaha. Although the soul is conditioned within this material world, he has no connections with the changes of the material body. Om ajnanatimanantasya jnananjana shalakaya chakshurun militam yena tasmai Shri Gurave namaha Shri Chaitanya manobhishtam sthapitam yena bhutale swayam rupa kadamahyam dadati swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guroho Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktarinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Huvi bhaumani bhutani yatha yanti api yanti cha nayamatma tathaiteshu viparyeti yathaiva bhu. In this world we can see that pots, dolls, and other products of the earth appear, break, and then disappear, mixing with the earth. Similarly, the bodies of all conditioned living entities are annihilated, but the living entities like the earth itself are unchanging and never annihilated. Nahanyate hanyamane sharire. Aside from the irony of Kamsa speaking so nicely, Atma Tattva, which I'm sure has been pointed out before and will be pointed out again by other speakers, the point is, what is he saying? Aside from the obvious question, why is he saying it? That is the issue. We may be engaged in devotional service. Why? That is always the question. What's your motive? What is your hetu? Hetu means motive or agenda. So Kamsa had a clear agenda, and his agenda was actually demoniac. And yet, in order to fulfill his agenda, he's speaking so nicely, preaching Krishna consciousness. Sometimes we find there are people who have demoniac agendas, but they preach Krishna consciousness. So Kamsa was one of them. And Bhuvi bhaumani bhutani yatha yanti apayanti cha. He says very nicely, just as on this earth, things made of earth are appearing and disappearing. Sridhar Swami glosses the term here. Yanti, apayanti cha means bhavanti na bhavanti cha. It exists 1 minute, it's gone another minute. Or, as Sanatana Goswami glosses in his commentary, apayanti means nashyanti, it is destroyed in due course of time. So, the material body is created. Bhuta, we're called Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. Bhuta means something that is created. Bhu means to create something. Because the earth is created, it's also called Bhu. Or as this verse, Bhuvi, in the locative case. So, Bhoma. Bhoma means things that are of the earth, things that are created of the earth, specific objects. And Sridhar Swami, well, he says Bhutani means Deha, different kinds of bodies. Bhomani means inert objects, such as pots and so on, Ghatadin. So these things are all made of, they're all transformations of earth, water, fire, air, ether. Everything in this world is a transformation of these 5 elements. Everything grows, that is to say. And we hear in the Bhagavatam, sometimes the mystic yogis, they're able to take these constituent elements and separate them out again and merge them back into their respective elements. According to Ayurveda, our body is constantly interacting with the external environment. The external environment is comprised of the same 5 elements, and those elements nourish the material body and sustain or replenish the material body. Because all things that are bhuta, or created, they have to rot at a certain point. They will disintegrate at a certain point, and they're replaced by the external elements, especially fire and water. No, fire and wind and what are these 3 doshas they say in Ayurveda? Kapha, Pitta, Vayu. Yeah. Soma is the nourishing element, the cooling, soothing property of the moon, which supplies all life, actually. The sun similarly sustains all life. Vayu moves all life. These energies are constantly impacting us in this world. So these are called bhoma, material products, such as pots, and as Prabhupada says here, dolls. Our material bodies are just like dolls. They're created out of these elements. They're moving around for some time. By what agency? What is it that animates the body? The soul. Are you sure? Actually, karma animates this material body. Without the soul, there's no need for the karma, therefore it doesn't exist. But actually, birth and death, I think it's Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, it is produced out of dharma and adharma. That is to say, karma and vikarma. If you get a nice birth, that is the result of dharma. If you get a not so nice birth, that is the result of adharma. Either way, what really puts us into the specific configuration of 5 material elements that we currently identify with. I hesitate to say that we inhabit it, but we certainly identify with it. That is all put together by our own actions in the past. Something to consider. So, yanti, they appear in form, and apayanti, they disappear in form. Parantu, the idea here is, na ayam atma tata. This atma is not like that. This is the point. The self is not functioning in that way. Among all these products, eteshu. Therefore, viparyeti yathaiva bhuhu. There's no change, actually. In the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, after Krishna has liberated the sons of Kuvera, what are their names? Manigriva and Nalakuvara. So Krishna didn't liberate them, Narad Muni liberated them. And Krishna reminded them of this. And he said that they prayed to him, rather, that, my dear Lord, you are Sarva Kshetra Vikara Vit. Sarva Kshetra Vikara Vit. Sarva Kshetra, we know, means all the different kshetras, this material mind-body configuration that we all inhabit. Everybody has their own particular individualized model. Machine, as Prabhupada said in the purport. This is called the kshetra. What do you do in a kshetra? If you have nice land, what do you do with that land in order to use it appropriately? Most productively, what do? You plant. You engage in agriculture. You plant seeds. This world is called karma bhumi. It is the world of action. And karma, we talk about bij, karma bij. Different activities, they have different results. So they're like planting different seeds in your field of activity, the mind-body complex. And those seeds are going to fructify, they're going to grow. They always fructify. And they're going to produce some particular kind of fruits, some particular kind of flowers and fruits, ultimately. The fruits may be very pleasing, just like mango or papaya. If you plant papaya, you have very pleasing fruit, very sweet, everyone enjoys. And if you plant castor beans and you try to eat that fruit, what will happen to you? Anybody know? It's the source of the most poisonous substance that we know. Ricin comes from castor beans. So karma is also like that. Some things if you eat, some karmic reactions, if you eat those karmic reactions, it's very pleasing. And some karmic reactions, if you eat them, it's traumatizing. So the soul is going through all these changes, but the soul is not of these changes. This is the point. Prabhupada quotes here twice in his purport. Asango hi ayam purushaha. This person, this self, is actually asanga, without any association, only through illusion. This is the point. Do we identify, or rather misidentify, with this material body? Viparya. Viparya means change. And just as the earth itself, the element of earth, considered in the abstract, the earth is not affected in the least by creating pots, breaking pots, firing pots, cooking with pots, melting pots, whatever you do with pots. The earth is not in the least bit affected. And the same pots are returning to the earth from whence they came. In exactly this way, Krishna says here, that this, or Kamsa rather, he says here that this material body, this soul, is not affected. Even though it comes into contact with all these elements, it remains unchanged. It never changes. Life after life after life. So this is the great challenge. This is the primary challenge. The very first realization we have to have in Krishna consciousness is this thing only. We are not this material body. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada hammers on this point time after time after time after time. Practically speaking, in every page of his books, you're going to find these verses are quoted. Here he's incorporated into his translation, Bhagavad Gita chapter 2, text number 20, which I'll translate. Na jayate mriyate va kadachinnayam bhutva bhavita va na bhuyah ajo nityah shashvato yam purano na hanyate hanyamane sharire. For the soul there is neither birth nor death at any time. He has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. He's unborn, eternal, ever-existing, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain. And this is exactly the point that Kamsa wants to make, perversely enough. Devaki, my dear sister, I'm not killing your kids. They're coming and going according to their own karma, and the things that he's saying are not incorrect. But again, why is he saying them? He's actually himself in illusion. He himself thinks that he is this material body, although he's preaching very nicely that we are not the material body. Of course, Kamsa is maybe a special category because he's a play demon only. But there are real demons. Perhaps we come from that ilk. But anyway, Kathopanishad has a very similar verse, almost verbatim, the same words are used. Najayate mriyate va vipaschin nayam kutaschin nababhuva kaschita ajonitya shashvato yam purane na hanyate hanyamane sharire. The purport is the same. So this is the beginning of Bhagavad Gita. Now, specifically in this verse, he's paraphrasing actually what Krishna himself has said, or at least he's strongly implying the truth of what Krishna himself has said in the same chapter of Bhagavad Gita. What chapter? Just want to see if you're listening. Chapter 2. Text 27. Jatasya hi dhruvam mrityur dhruvam janma mritasya cha. Tasmara pariharyarthe natvam shochitam arhasi. If you have taken birth, it's understood you're going to die. If you've already died, it's understood you're going to take birth. This thing is apariharya. Apariharya means you cannot overcome this thing. It is in charge. You have no say in the matter. This is the fact. And therefore, he goes on, avyaktadini bhutani vyaktamadhyani bharata avyaktanidhatanyeva tatraka paridevana. All created beings are unmanifest in their beginning, manifest in their interim state, and unmanifested again when annihilated. So what need is there for lamentation? The same principle is holding good here. This is what Kamsa is implying, all these things. He says, we make so many things out of earth. They come, they're used for some time, they eventually break, they eventually dissolve, but they're always earth. So in the same way, we take birth, we sustain for some time, we produce children, we've already grown, we start to dwindle when you pass 50, everything is downhill from that point on, and then eventually we have to die. So what is the point of getting bent out of shape? Krishna says, Dehinosmin yatha dehe komaram yovanam jara tatha dehantara pratir dhiras tatra namuyate. We have to become dhira. Are we dhira? You can be tested. This is why we're tested in this material world. Anyone ever had a near-death experience? Anyone been near someone who's dying also? It's kind of close. I was in Chicago 2 years ago, and I got a phone call from my sister. She said, your twin brother, who had had cancer a few years before, the cancer, when it always comes back, and it generally comes back with a vengeance. So he had to undergo a very sensitive operation. She said, he may not make it, you better come. 2 days later, I came. And I discovered that the very same sister who called me, she was herself admitted to the same hospital in which my brother had his surgery done. And she had some obstruction in her brain. They had to take some tests. It turned out that she also had cancer. They both died within 6 months of one another. That can shake up your world a little bit, especially a twin brother. So these things happen to us. They happen to real people. They may happen to us. They may have already happened to us. Maybe they brought us to Krishna consciousness. I know many people in that category as well. One devotee I know, he's a big book distributor. He was in an automobile accident, and he was completely bewildered. He just wandered out of the accident. Physically, he was fine, but somehow or other, his whole memory was completely erased, and he had no idea who he was. He wasn't carrying any ID with him. He wasn't driving. And he was just wandering in a daze. He walked away from the accident, but he couldn't understand, who am I? Where am I? What am I doing here? What happened? He couldn't understand anything. Finally, this is how Krishna works. One devotee approaches him with Bhagavad Gita as it is and says, excuse me, sir, do you know who you are? And this person said, well, as a matter of fact, I have no idea who I am. So he gave him the Bhagavad Gita as it is, and he started to read Bhagavad Gita as it is, and he started to relate with it. And in that circumstance, these things take on a whole added significance that we might not otherwise see, because we're so covered over we're so wrapped up in our dreams and our projects and our karmas and our envies so we have to be jolted sometimes, and that cannot be an easy process. It can't be an easy process. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, in his commentary on some of these verses, he is quoting from the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Narad Muni happens to show up at very crucial times, in case you notice. Whenever there's a big drama going on, somehow or other Narad Muni appears on the scene. So Sanjaya Who was Sanjaya? Sanjaya. He was the secretary, the personal servant, you can say, of Dhritarashtra. He woke up one morning, both Dhritarashtra and Gandhari are missing. And he knows that these are smart people. They're very calculating people also. He knows. They haven't just disappeared, they haven't been abducted. He said, Mushitoham. In fact, I've been cheated by these great souls. They disappeared. They didn't even care. I've given my whole life to their service, and they didn't even inform me that they're leaving. They left due to the strong preaching of Vidura. So Narad Muni happens to show up, and everyone is there in the palace, all the members of the family. It's a big hubbub going on. And Narad Muni shows up, and Yudhishthira Maharaj asks him, what do we do? What is the circumstance that we're in? So among the other things, instructions on Atma Tattva that Narad Muni gives, he says, Yan manyase dhruvam lokam, adhruvam va nachobhayam, sarvatha nahi shochaste, snehad anyatra mohajat. What does it mean? If you think dhruvam lokam, this world is permanent, okay, some people think like that. This world is permanent. And it's true. We've been describing at least the elements. They're permanent. All the created things within this world, those are not permanent. But the elements, permanent to hai. So, that's okay. Adhruvam cha. Or if you think that everything in this world and everyone and everything within it is not permanent, that is also a fact. Or if you think that it's both permanent and non-permanent, that's also a fact. And if you think that it's both, if you think it's neither permanent nor non-permanent, these are four possible conjectures that one can make about this, trying to make sense of what life is. It's permanent, it's not permanent, it's both, it's neither. There's no other possibility. So he says, in either case, I see no justification for this sneha, family affection, this attachment. He says, why? Because mohajat, it is born out of illusion only. Who is your real brother? Who is your real parents? Who are they? What is the situation here? We may have had experience already. As long as there's money, then everyone loves you, Shankaracharya says. Yavad vitto parjna sakta tavan nij parivaro rakta. Your family members, they will be attached to you as long as you're bringing in money, or maybe prestige, or something else that they want. Then they love you. Pashchad jivati jaradehe vartam kopi na prichati gehe. Later on, just wait. Later on, when you're old and decrepit, can't take care of yourself, you become a burden to everyone around you, it's a hassle to deal with you, you can't remember anything, you can't manage anything. This is happening to all of us. It's already happening. This is the point. He said, so old age, when we become like this, he says, Vardham kopi na prichati gehe. In your own home, nobody will even bother to ask, how are you doing? They don't care. This is the hard, cold reality, the poet Kabir says. And while we're running up a huge tab, trying to serve everyone and everything in sight in this material world, akhira akela jana. In the end, you have to go on alone. Your money stays in the bank. Your car stays in the garage. Your spouse, wife at least, stays in the house. Your friends may come to your funeral. Your body goes as far as the funeral pyre. But you're going on alone, my friend. You're going on all by yourself. What are you going to do? Where are you going? Are you prepared? So these instructions are here for us. All the acharyas commenting here. Baladevidya Bhushan. Dehatma vivekena shoko nivartaniya ityaha bhuviti. This verse he speaks, Kamsa speaks, in order to dispel the grief that Devaki is feeling on account of considering the body to be the self. Similarly, Sridhar Swami says, Sada nasata ityanena yaduktam janma maranadi tadapi dehanam eva natmanaha ityaha. The idea is that what's been said about the non-existence of things in this material world, they refer to birth and death and other such things regarding the body only. They don't refer to the soul. This is the idea. So we have to hear these things now. Jabalagatana mein tapana vyapai tabalaga kari hari seva, one poet, Hindi poet says. While you can, you have to use your brain and consider these things in order to prepare yourself, because it is coming. You like it or not, you have no say in the matter. Everybody, unless they're killed earlier in a carjacking or drug overdose or AIDS or whatever it is that kills people in this world, everybody in this world ends up lying in a hospital bed next to a beeping pole, surrounded by clueless people who can't understand how your world is being deconstructed, as they say. Only when we're at the threshold of death, then we see things as they are. Up until that point, we're completely, it's like, you know, the program is still running, but it's been double-clicked, and the desktop is cluttered with everything else. So our Krishna consciousness is like that. It's actually already within. It's there. You cannot destroy it any more than you can destroy the earth element. You can destroy things made of earth, fine, but you cannot get rid of this earth element. You can pervert it as much as you want, but you cannot destroy it. This is the point. In the same way, the soul. The soul is going to be there. The soul has its life. The soul has its realizations, its activities, its ecstasy. Everything is there. But we can only pervert these things in this material world through adharma. So we have to at least sharpen our intelligence so that we can see things as they are. Why? Because if it's hardwired, as they say, I was talking with one girl yesterday. She's a student of classical music, Hindustani Shastriya Sangeet. So I told her that you have to practice every single day. If you don't practice, then one day you let go without practicing, you lose a week of accomplishment. It's a fact. Any musician knows. So that is what Krishna consciousness is also like that. If we don't practice this right now and get this really hardwired, I mean, deep in our hearts, then how do you process the moment of death when the intelligence doesn't work anymore? When the mind even isn't working anymore? When your ego has been completely obliterated? What do you do? If you're so thoroughly invested in the mind-body complex that once it starts to disintegrate means it's all disassembled. All the constituent elements are taken apart. Where do you go? What do you do? You cannot imagine the bewilderment of the conditioned souls who are facing this. And we cannot even imagine how we're going to face it either. My mother had a lifelong policy. If I ever get to the point, she said, where you have to keep me alive with like tubes and artificial sorts of things, which actually came to pass one day, just as it will come to pass with many of us. So then she had a stroke. She was comatose for several days, and the doctor said, she's got maybe hours, maybe days only to live. You better settle up whatever you need to settle up now. Somehow or other she came to. My sister, she had advanced health care directive. And she had to ask the sensitive question, Mom, you said that you never wanted us to keep you alive artificially, but now it's kind of like that. And if we push this button here, then you can take maybe another breath or two. Who's ready for that? She reversed her lifelong policy on the spot. We don't know what is the challenge of death, but we do know from experience and from hearing that if these ideas are constantly ruminated, this is of Sankhya, neti, it is a process of mental adjustment. Really, the fact of the matter is that this is in Kali Yuga. And the only thing that's going to carry any of us, because none of us has any really good intelligence or pure minds, the only thing that's going to carry any of us is mercy. So, when I was in Seattle some 20 years ago, the devotees printed up these mantra cards. It says, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And then the caption underneath read, please chant this mantra while you can. just to prod the intelligence a little bit, just to get people thinking. Because we don't think half the time. We're just running around on autopilot. Kartaham iti manyate. The modes of material nature are pushing us, kicking us like a football, Badrinath Iyengar Swami explains. You're flying through the air, the sky's the limit, the weather's great, there's no problem. But you're a football, my friend. You're going to hit the ground hard. And when you do, somebody's going to come back and kick you again the other direction. And where are you going? Back and forth, like this. In this way, we're being beaten and smashed by Maya. We're just being kicked around by Maya our whole life. So Krishna consciousness is a short, human life, I should say, is a short window of opportunity to break out of this cycle of repeated birth and death. And we do that very simple process. It's not necessarily a very easy process because we're envious. Our hearts are infected. But if we take the trouble to try to focus and chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, and hear a little bit from Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam. Serve the devotees. Try to remember Krishna, the four things. What are the four things Krishna mentions twice in Bhagavad Gita? Think about me, become my devotee, worship me, bow down. He says it in chapter 9. He repeats it again in chapter 18. That means it's going to be on the test. So you have to learn this, if nothing else, learn these things. Manmana pavamad bhakto madhyaji man namaskuru. So if we use our life while it lasts to do these things, then we can elevate our consciousness out of all these temporal changes that involve the five elements from which our bodies are constructed. And we can see that just as the earth stays, no matter how many things made of it come and go, so similarly, no matter how many bodies I step into and step out of, I'm still the same person, because we're in touch with our eternal existence, eternal identity, eternal function. So, muktir hitvanyatharupam sarupena vyavastitihi. Srimad Bhagavatam says, this is our liberated state. Okay, I'm going to stop here. If anybody has any questions or comments, yes, Prabhuji. He's got a microphone.
Thanks for the classes, Prabhu. You mentioned the advanced directives, and as far as we go here in this country, there's a DNR, do not resuscitate.
That's right. That is exactly what I was talking about.
Exactly. But I've been thinking in my personal case that if I reach to that point, I would love to have an assisted death. How moral or immoral that can be, according to the Shastras?
Okay, good question. We find early on in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna, and by telling Arjuna, he's telling all of us, you only have one adhikar. What does adhikar mean? It's unfortunate that we don't have an adequate word for this in English. Adhikar means, the closest thing I found in English is the word prerogative. What does prerogative mean? It means something that you're allowed to do, but you're allowed to do it because you're actually able to do it. You actually qualified to do that. That's adhikar. And in fact, Krishna tells Uddhava in the 11th canto that Swe Swe Adhikare Yanishta Saguna Parikirtata. For each and every person to be situated in his own adhikar, that is to say, not attempting more than he's qualified to do, not settling for less than he's qualified to do, that is a good qualification, and anything else he says is dosha, flaw. Why am I saying this? Because in chapter 2, Krishna has already told us, Karmani eva adhikaraste. Your only adhikar is karma, and in this sense, karma means dharma. You have to do your duty. And ma phaleshu kadachana, but you cannot have the fruits of that duty. Ma karma phale hetur bhur. You cannot even take pride in what you're doing. And mate sangostu akarmani. You cannot not do anything also. I went to the University of Hawaii once. Not University of Hawaii. I met one professor from that university. He came to the temple. So I had some questions I wanted to ask him about the Upanishads, and he didn't feel like talking about it. So he didn't. He said, look, understand this one thing. Krishna says, you have to work, you can't have your paycheck, you cannot take pride in what you're doing, and you cannot not work. He said, how are you going to sell this to the ordinary man on the street? This is slavery. Firthi, this is what Krishna says. Our only concern is to do our dharma. If it is our duty, then we do it. If it is not our duty, we don't do it. And with regards to all things karmic, whatever you have to experience by nature's arrangement, that you should undergo, because you will expend the karma that way. If you try to interfere with the karma or change the karma, this is what we do, then you simply create more karma. So adding karma to karma means only karma. Subtracting karma from karma means only karma still. In this world, there's only karma. But the way out of karma is to do dharma. And especially parodharma. Savai pungsam parodharmo yato bhakti rahokshije. By transcendental devotional service. There's only one way that one can, with shastric sanction, as far as I'm aware, voluntarily embrace death, and that is through fasting. I should correct myself, 2 ways. One is fasting until death in a certain way that is enjoined and described in the Dharma Shastras. Another one is to commit suicide by submerging yourself in the confluence of the Ganga and the Saraswati and the Yamuna Triveni Sangam at Prayag. Those 2 ways are bona fide suicide. But actually suicide is not enjoined for the devotees. Why? Because the devotees have already given their body and their minds and their words to Krishna. So we no longer are in charge. We're like animals, sold out. When animal depends completely on the master and serves the master only. Animal has no independent existence. Dasa means slave. That's why we take these names. So-and-so dasi, so-and-so dasa means I'm your slave only. I belong to you. You dictate my life. You make my decisions. Yad kuromi sakalam parasmai narayanahi samarpayami. Nityadi. Is it clear? Okay. You had a question. Microphone's coming.
There were several, I guess you were drawing from several places in this particular canto or in general. I know you went to 27, there were several, and I would be interested in getting those.
Yeah, I quoted 3 verses from 2 of them from chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita, 1 of them from the 1st canto, chapter 13 of Bhagavatam.
Okay. All right. Well, there was the 4 very important factors that we should know, and it may deal with whether it's initiation or Krishna consciousness. There's a lot of information I'd forgotten, and you had stated that. So I was wanting you to state that again in English, so I could just do my research again.
I'm not sure I heard your question.
There were those four, I think there were four that you were saying that were very important in reference to being Krishna conscious or a devotee, and whether it was a part of the second initiation, I believe. That was a little earlier.
I gave a few groups of four in this lecture. Four possibilities with regards to seeing the mundane realm. It's eternal or it's not eternal. It's both eternal and not eternal, or it's neither. That's one set. Another set of four things I mentioned was Krishna's instruction that we think about him, worship him, bow down to him, and become his devotee.
Yes. Okay.
So would that entail initiation, is what you're asking?
I believe you had mentioned something in that regard.
I don't think I mentioned initiation.
Well, that's fine. That was the one in particular.
Yeah, this is one of the important things. There's a few instructions, actually, in Bhagavad Gita that Krishna mentions more than once. This is one of them. Another one is, he says, it's better to do your own duty with faults than it is to apparently do someone else's duty properly. That's an important point as well, because it causes problems and entangles us further and entangles other people as well. What else does Krishna say twice? He says twice also, sacrifice, charity, austerity, these things should never be given up because they purify even great souls. Twice he says this. So the point is that these are the important instructions when he repeats them like this. Yajna dana tapaschaiva pavanani manishinaha. One should never give up sacrifice, one should never give up charity, and one should never give up austerity, because these things purify even great souls. He says this twice also. Okay, is that satisfactory?
I was in a meeting, a spiritual meeting, just yesterday evening. It was just kind of impromptu. I was invited, and there's some interference in my family currently. And there's sometimes when situations come up, people believe different beliefs and different spiritual practices. With us, sometimes they say it's your karma. Everyone around you is supposed to be there because they were in another life or something. But when you're continuously trying to assist and give people information and you've done your best, I never like to give up, but what is your advice on that, especially if there's someone close to you?
Yeah, that can be a tough call. I think it's almost everyone's experience, especially when we're new to Krishna consciousness. The first thing we want to do is share it enthusiastically with all those who are close to us. And the first thing we realize as a result of that effort is that not everybody is so eager to embrace Krishna consciousness. Ramanujacharya, in his commentary on Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, text number 10, and all the acharyas following him, all the acharyas, period, who comment on that verse, they all say the same thing, that we become purified by the austerity of knowledge. And Ramanujacharya has described why knowledge is an austerity. It's twofold. Number one, you have to actually open up this book and read it. You have to take that much trouble to read regularly, to cultivate your intelligence as we've been describing. And that's an austerity. Because, sometimes the weather's nice in the summer in Chicago and we want to go out and play instead. Or sometimes we're just too tired at the end of the day and we just, somehow or other, it's an austerity to read Prabhupada's books. So that's one thing, he says, we have to take the trouble, that is an austerity. But having done that, and having become purified as a result of that, and having assimilated Krishna consciousness to the extent that we're actually capable of communicating it to others, that's another austerity, because sometimes people don't want to hear. Anyone who's ever tried to distribute books or otherwise preach Krishna consciousness, sometimes people they don't have faith. It's not so easy to deal with those people. It's an austerity in that sense as well. So how do we actually undergo the austerity? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us the universal formula for success in all Krishna conscious endeavors, and that is that you have to become more humble than a blade of grass. You have to become more tolerant than a tree. In Los Angeles, across the street from the temple, there are some magnolia trees. And I've seen over the years that they cut the branches on these trees. One day I saw so many scars on this tree. I counted. There were 32 limbs had been severed from this tree. That's what it means to be more tolerant than a tree. To be more humble than the grass. The grass is what the bottom of everyone's feet touch the grass. The bottom of everyone's filthy shoes after exiting the restroom and think of all the places that shoes go and everything that you can possibly step in. And the grass is underneath that. To be more humble than a blade of grass, to be more tolerant than a tree. And yet more difficult than those two things is the next part of the formula. He says, we give all respect to others, and we don't expect any respect in return. That is the most difficult of all. So this is a singularly unappealing proposal in this material world. And that's why we chant, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. If our heart has become softened and purified, if our infection has become reduced by this antibiotic, you can say, of the holy name of Krishna. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says this, after all. Enechi ausati mayar nashi baro lagi. Hare Krishna Mahamantra, lao tumi mangi. You come and beg for this holy name from me. Begging for the holy name means begging for this attitude with which we properly chant the holy name. Then our heart becomes purified, and we can embrace this ideal. It's very difficult. It's not even appealing, what to speak of difficult, practically. But by chanting, we can affect all this. It takes some time, and we have to be patient, we have to be determined. We have to keep good association, give up bad association. That's also very important. We have to follow the principles strictly, and we have to lead a clean life. These are 9 specific measures that have been, 9 or 10, depending on how you count them, specific measures that have been recommended by our acharyas and by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Is that okay? Anything else? Here I can speak from my own personal experience. I joined Krishna consciousness when I was very young. And in some sense you can say that my poor mother was cheated of some years of my balyavastha, childhood pastimes. When I saw that she had a need for someone to help her, I dedicated myself for about 4 or 5 years, and when she was old, before she left this world, I was her caregiver, permanent live-in caregiver. And at that time, I never once tried to preach to her, even though it was the most sensitive time of her life. As I've already described, she had gone through this experience, a comatose experience, and she came out of it, and she had to learn how to talk all over again. She had to learn how to walk all over again. For better part of a year, she was in the hospital, and she didn't know if it was day or night. So I sat with her all through that time, every single day. And I never ever tried to preach to her, but I did engage her however I could. I was giving her prasadam. Later on, when she became mobile, I would take her to the temple because she was bedridden, essentially. She was an invalid, and she would welcome any opportunity to go anywhere, because when you're an old person, nobody in your own family cares about you anymore. But I was caring, and she appreciated that. I think in large part because of that approach, very subtle and selfless approach, if you will, She actually had a very glorious departure from this world. She was wearing Tulsi neck beads, and she had Vaishnava tilak on her forehead. Among the last things she said were Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. The last thing she ate was certainly Mahaprasadam. She was in the proximity of the Shalagram Shila, and we were doing Akhanda Kirtan, constant Kirtan at her bedside for about 3 days, non-stop, round the clock. And she went peaceful and smiling. So sometimes, with time and practice of Krishna consciousness, we get insights into how to communicate it to others, given their particular configuration of Maya. So we have to be sensitive to that. And I think that's maybe why Krishna says in chapter 6, text 32 of Bhagavad Gita, that he considers the best yogi to be the one who actually has that much empathy. It's a blessing. I once asked my godbrother Gopi Paranadhana Prabhu, where does empathy come from? He said, it's a gift from above. You can't practice empathy. Nobody can train you in empathy. It's coming from God. But this helps. So, is that okay? All right, then we'll stop here. Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.